Ramaswamy, there is renewed attention this morning on the Democratic side of the ticket.
Yes.
There seems to be more pressure to get Joe Biden off the ticket from congressional Democrats.
Yep.
Do you think that will happen? And if so, how could it change the race?
I think this is entirely unsurprising. I believe that it is unlikely Joe Biden's going to be the nominee. I've said that for nearly a year and a half. I've said that for the last month and a half, and I think it's as true as ever now. I think part of the reason we're seeing it is not just the debate anymore. Now what we're seeing is Joe Biden doesn't have a message left. Because on one hand, all he was campaigning on was the histrionics of the fact that Trump poses a threat to democracy. Yet on the other hand, without that, Biden doesn't have a message left. So I think that's becoming painfully apparent to a lot of the Democrats. And the reality is he's going to lose this election. Now, whoever they put up, I think we can insulate ourselves against that by focusing on who we are and what we actually stand for as Republicans. And I think that's a lot of what you're seeing happen at this convention. We're the party of national unity now, and I think for good reason. And so that's the way I think it's going to play out.
If Kamala Harris becomes the nominee, do you think she would be a more effective messenger for the Democrats than Joe Biden has been?
I think that is a very difficult question to ask because both Kamala Harris and Joe Biden suffer from their own respective cognitive deficits and political and governing deficits.
What are Kamala Harris's cognitive deficits in your
view?
view?
I think the fact that she knows very little about many of the subjects she's been put in position of responsibility to oversee. From the southern border, where she utterly failed in her responsibility to look after the southern border, all the way to her responsibility as supposedly the czar to look after AI. I think she's demonstrated in a lot of her public commentary that she doesn't have the first idea what modern artificial intelligence is or the actual risks that it poses as well as the opportunities that it poses. Kamala Harris is somebody who unambiguously got her job because of the combination of her race and gender. That may sound controversial to some, but don't take it from me. That's exactly what much of the Democratic Party said when they chose her as the nominee. Their words, not mine. We need to put a woman of color on that ticket. So group quotas and merit are fundamentally incompatible, and Kamala Harris is, I think, living proof of that.
Democrats point to her role as Attorney General in California, her role in the Senate, and that as a prosecutor, she could be a good person to prosecute the case, the Democrat side of the story, against former President Trump. Are you concerned that she would be a better communicator than Joe Biden?
Look, I could care less about analyzing the individual political attributes of different Democrats. What I care about is who we are and what we actually stand for. I think Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are failed leaders of this country. Not failed leaders by a little bit, but abysmally failed leaders. But I don't want to dwell on that because our message and our focus is what are we actually running to, not what we're running from. And that's what I'm interested in.
Thursday night, Donald Trump is speaking at the convention. There's been talk about the assassination attempt changing the nature of his speech and the nature of this convention. Do you think that's going to be the case?
I think just palpably on the ground here, we were all shaken up by a near national tragedy that we averted by a centimeter, a hair's breadth, on Saturday night. So how could it not change everyone's outlook, right? We're not just, no American is going on just as business as usual. Nor should we. But I think there's a palpable sense here on the ground of, usually in a Republican convention, there's a sense of party unity, and there's some of that here, of course. But I think there's something deeper going on. There's a sense and a hunger for national unity. And I think the Republican Party, coming out of this convention, has become and will become the party of national unity. And I think that's powerful. Not a fake national unity, but the real thing. Recognizing that we have deep-seated disagreements as Americans, but we're still willing to respect our fellow citizens as citizens and to debate them without fear of political violence and without the government stepping in the way.